LoreWarrior Online, Peregrine Attack VTOL, 3058 upgrade. Overview. Another product of Blackwell Corporation, the Peregrine was originally commissioned by Wolf's Dragoons, but was quickly made available for sale to any buyer. This VTOL saw use throughout the Ionosphere in the arsenals of houses Kurita, Lao, and Marek during the 3020s, and Wolf's Dragoons never pressed it into general service in their units. They found the Peregrine mechanically unreliable, poorly protected, and expensive. One Dragoon's pilot reportedly claimed that it flew like a lead-coated brick, and by 3028, the Wolf's Dragoon's mystique surrounding the vehicle had been burned away in the fires of hard-fought combat, and the Ionosphere houses had placed their Peregrines into reserve depots, or assigned them to local police. Capabilities. The Peregrine was designed to escort transports during air assault. Keeping in mind the need for such a vehicle to provide suppressive fire across a landing zone, the Peregrine's designers gave it impressive short-range firepower, dual SRM launchers and miniguns. Unfortunately, these weapons ranges are so short that the vehicle must move inside the range of small arms fire to use them effectively. The machine is too thinly armoured to sustain even a reasonable level of damage, and so Peregrine losses in battle were phenomenally high. Another major design flaw was the use of an internal flywheel rather than the traditional tail rotor to combat the torque from the vehicle's main rotor. Several Peregrine pilots were killed during hard emergency landings, which tended to cause the flywheel to break free of the mounting, tear through the fusion plant, and smash into the cockpit. Maintenance of Peregrine's fusion plants also pose their own hazards for technicians who have to wear level 1 protective garments to keep themselves safe while working. Poorly designed access hatches made routine maintenance physically difficult to carry out, and procedures for preventative maintenance were overly complex. In one particularly egregious case, changing a certain belt every 100 flight hours required the disassembly and removal of the entire fusion plant and rotor system. In the light of such failings, the only capability working in its favour is speed. Topping off at nearly 200 kph, Peregrines usually managed to report for duty on time, not that anyone cared to see them when they would show up. More than one crew saved themselves with the vehicle's speed, setting their rotors steep and pushing their reactor to its limit while being sure to flee in a straight line and abstain from any manoeuvre. Deployment. The Peregrine's many problems caused all house militaries to withdraw it from active service. Many of these belonging to the Kuritan Civilian Guidance Corps would see action during the Clan War, but reportedly fared no better against the clans than against Ionosphere opponents. Due to the dire need for everything even remotely resembling a fighting vehicle during the Fedcom Civil War, houses Davian and Steiner pressed some of their stockpile Peregrines back into service to fill up their depleted armies, but even in these cases, the Peregrines weren't seen in anything else than a gap-filling role, far behind the front lines. Thus the saying among fighting personnel that someone ducking out of the front by feigning injury has gone watching Perrys. Variants. Cynics say that there are two main Peregrine variants. One consists of ripping out the armament and using the VTOL for whatever odd job might come up, while the second involves stripping the chassis of anything else that's still salvageable and leaving it to rust. And as stark as this may sound, apart from household tinkering and desperate cosmetics, mainly in the protection area, these are effectively the only two modifications applied to the unfortunate VTOL. Notable crews. Perry and Gring. Every time the audience sees a VTOL crash or explode spectacularly in an entertainment or recruiting holovid involving Greenbird's Godzilla, Perry and Gring, or Yan Mahong and Colburn Nock, most certainly had a part in it. Both are experienced VTOL pilots and gladly double as stuntmen and take great pleasure in scrapping the stack of decommissioned Peregrines acquired by the Greenberg Godzillas from the DCMS a few years ago. Captain Mark Bauer. Captain Bauer might well be the only known pilot in the CCAF command who actually likes flying his odd 30-year-old Peregrine. Granted, to date he has never actually taken it into real combat, carefully restricting himself to low-level support flights or courier duty. Nevertheless, he excels in these tasks, making full use of its impressive speed and long-standing experience, putting over pilots in more capable machines to shame. So the Peregrine, mass 30 tons, movement type VTOL, power plant is a 220 DAV fusion. Its cruise speed is 130 kph, its flank speed is 194 kph, with Protect Tech medium armour. It's equipped with two Larkin SRM-4 launchers and two Blackwell B-75 machine guns. manufactured by Blackwell Corporation on outreach. Its communication system is a Dalband Starlink 2A, and its targeting and tracking is the good old Garrett E2B model. So this translates into a cruise of 12 and a flank of 18. It has 10 heatsinks, and it is equipped with a massive armour package of 2 on the front, 2 on each side, 1 on the rear, 1 on the turret. As such, it has more than enough ammo for the machine guns and about 25 shots of SRM4, split between the 2 launchers. Yeah, you heard that right. 2. I believe a warrior has more armour than this thing. It's bad, and you know what? It's fine. This is what you need in BattleTech. There's always just like in real life, there are plenty of vehicles that get designed and they just don't meet the expectation. Somebody had an idea, it somehow got through approval, and there it is. And yeah, it's great. It's an awesome idea, and as it happens in real life, it should happen in something as wide and as varied as the Ionosphere. And the Peregrine is a great example of this. I also didn't do this one as a double feature out of the 2 because outside of the final paragraph in the capabilities section, everything there is just an exact point-for-point copy of the original write-up. The difference here is that at least the upgrade version added notable crews and a variant section, which the original TRO didn't have. But otherwise, it would have just been me reading out the exact same thing twice. I know some of these double feature ones have some crossover in the initial overview bit, but usually by capabilities and deployment, there's a little bit of difference, some extra stuff there to get some information from. So I didn't bother doing that with this one. But yeah, I appreciate the fact that the Peregrine is basically so bad it hurts, and that's perfectly fine. They're a great thing that you could throw 30 of these things at the players, and more often than not, they're going to come out with a lot of dead helicopters by the end of it. I'm actually surprised that this thing didn't make it into games like MechWarrior 5, just to give a bit more variance, rather than just having that weird like Karnov variant with the what do they call it? There's the heavier one that's got like ACs on it and stuff, AC 5s and 10s and that. I forget what that one's called. I'm surprised that this didn't make the cut. VTOLs are also something that should have been in HBS BattleTech. And I feel it was sad that they didn't make the cut either. But you know, we have Living Legends. If you want VTOLs, you got Living Legends. At least there's that. But probably Living Legends too as well when that gets a bit further along in its development. But yeah, the Peregrine, it is terrible, and it's how it should be. Not everything has to be the best. Unfortunately, I think there's a mindset with a lot of people that came into games who came into the universe from games like MechWarrior Online, for instance, and they feel that if a vehicle or a mech doesn't perfectly do the job that it was designed for, then why does it exist? And the answer to that is because it's realistic like that. Because no vehicle ever really does achieve 100% of its goals. And if it does, it's usually just ridiculously expensive to produce something like that in large numbers. Whereas something like a Peregrine probably gets produced in large numbers relatively cheaply by comparison. I know there's a write-up that says it. I think it says it's expensive probably because of its fusion engine, but I bet you a lot of Peregrines were made by Blackwell, and I bet you a lot of them were sold. So it still would have been financially viable for a time to keep producing them. Though I would assume that Blackwell would probably stop selling it unless there's like a civilian model out there that might be produced, and that's what they keep building Peregrines for. I don't know. That would be an interesting part, actually. I would assume there'd be one. I'm just spitballing out. Anyway, have a good one, everybody. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.